What's up again, guys? Welcome back to Guntertainment, and I'm your host, Richard Gunter. And what we are going to do right now, we are just going to do a little recap over the JPL semi-final we play Sunday night. Zine, this one is between Portmore and Mount Pleasant. Now, I anticipated that this game would be the more attractive game and the more exciting game between the two encounters. Firstly, the formation of both teams was so Mount Pleasant play a 4-3-3 formation. That was, I thought they would have played 4-1-4-1, but surprisingly they went for a 4-3-3. It's kind of the same thing, just the setup was different. And Portmore play a 4-4-2, but their 4-4-2 was taking the shape of a shape of a box, like they were playing a box midfield in their 4-4-2. So when they're defending, the midfielders that was playing in that box four, that midfield four, would just go wide to try to help their wing backs. But right throughout the game, there wasn't much wide outlet for Portmore because of the system that they were playing. The midfielders they overload the midfield with 4 because it's 4 versus 3 in the midfield area. But you would think that Mount Pleasant would have a lot of joy on the wing, but that wasn't really the case. Their wingers weren't so effective in my opinion. They weren't that effective. But as I said, the midfield battle was what was the interesting one, because Portmore outpossessed Mount Pleasant, and that was because of their midfield dominance. So naturally, in a game of football is a numbers game. So whichever area you can outnumber your opponent in, then you'll have the upper hand on them. So that is why coaches would normally stress to overload in the attacking area inside the box, because once you overload those areas, then you can, from a numbers perspective, you'll more likely to score a goal. The other thing was, while Portmore was building up from the back, they had no width, because as I was saying earlier, they were playing in a box midfield. So when the wing back picks up the ball, he would normally look to go inside. If one of those midfielders doesn't break and go wide, he would have to play the ball inside, or he would go long. What was happening in the quarterfinals was McGregor was always breaking. He was always breaking wide, so they could give him the ball wide. But McGregor wasn't the second striker that started with Corey Burke. He was a different striker, and he wasn't breaking as often as I thought they would. But Ramon Howell, I must say, what a performance from him. He was the one controlling the tempo of the game. He controlled how Portmore United played. While Portmore had the dominance in terms of possession, they didn't offer much going forward, because they didn't created any clear-cut opportunities, any clear-cut goal-scoring opportunities. And so that's one thing, that's one of the problems that I saw. I don't know if that comes down to them not having out-and-out wingers, or I think it was because Mount Pleasant defended well, so they tried to force, even though they tried to penetrate through the midfield, Mount Pleasant was forcing them wide, and they had no wingers. So when they were forced in those wide areas, then they had to turn back and start the build-up phase again. However, being that they had no wingers, that was where Mount Pleasant capitalized, because they were able to capitalize on having wingers. So whenever they hit Portmore on the transition, either the winger would come inside, pick up the ball, and then a midfielder would make a run. So taking that fullback with him inside and then make a run outside, then a midfielder would make a run outside, and then that rotation of play was executed perfectly from a Mount Pleasant standpoint. Portmore was rotating their players as well, but I think Mount Pleasant had a better effect on their players rotating. So he would rotate wide, and then the ball would play through to him, and then right there and then Mount Pleasant was on the attack, and they created a few chances from scenarios like that, never capitalized. I think in this game, not a lot of chances were created, but this is a semi-final, so whatever chance you get, you have to take, because you'll expect from first versus third, the matchup should be close. And I think that last ditch, that final ball, that final cross could have been better for a tap home from the striker. But overall, I think the game was a good watch. As I said, it heated up around the 27th minute, and going into the second half, it started with a bang, and it was an exciting one to watch, especially between the tactic that was deployed by both coaches. And this is halftime, so let's see how the second half will turn out. I'm going for this is a close one. I'm not even sure which way this is going to go, but Mount Pleasant have the advantage at the break right now, so I'll expect them to go on and win it, but I'm interested to see what kind of tactical adjustment Rudolph Aston is going to make for this one. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this game. Was it interesting to you guys? Was it excited? Which way do you think this time might turn, even though Mount Pleasant have the upper hand? And if you guys like this, if you guys like the video, just like, share, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments, and just make a go and reason the football down in the comments. Zine, until next time, this is your boy Richard Gunter. Peace out.